Welcome to Forge. My name is Kelsey. I'm the marketing and community manager here. So I work under Kim Lee, who started Forge. We've only been open for a couple months. So for those of you who don't know really what Forge is, it's a co-working space. So we have different membership levels where you can work from here 8 hours a week, 20 hours a week, or full-time using our common space, but we have private offices too. So if any of you are interested in hearing more about it, definitely let me know, and we have free day passes for you. So if anyone's interested to come back and just work from here for the day to see what it's like, let me know and I can give you one of those. But we're really excited for today, and Russell Hooks is going to introduce Deon.
Thank you so much. Hey y'all, Russell Hooks are in Happens to Ham, and also I work out of this awesome space, which is cool because I was in co-stars with Kim, who runs this wonderful facility, and I got to see the idea kind of from the beginning to fruition. And one of the people that helped out with that was Deon. I'm sure a bunch of y'all know him, probably all of you, because he's so involved in all things Birmingham. I can't say enough about the enthusiasm, the positive energy, and just the excitement that Deon brings to everything he's working on, from the big pitch coming up here in the near future, to all the things he did at REV, to now transitioning to TechBirmingham. So we look forward to all the great things he does there. So without further ado, let's welcome Deon.
Good deal. All right, so Deon Gordon, Russell pretty much covered everything. Born and bred from Birmingham, went to Ramsey High School, go Rams. There we go, Southern Board. Auburn University, War Eagle. There's always one. But we're in Birmingham, so go Blazers, right? They're bowl eligible, so good stuff. But very passionate about Birmingham. Had the pleasure of serving on a few boards and committees and organizations that are involved with Birmingham's revitalization. Started with the junior board of Railroad Park, now the general board of directors, Art Walk, Growing Kings. So without kind of going too far into that list, it's basically an opportunity for me to live my passion. And a lot of that really deals directly with entrepreneurship. And so I don't want to spend too much time regurgitating what we're doing at REV, because I see a lot of familiar faces in here. Just a quick post. Who all in here are co-starter graduates? Jeez Louise, okay. All right, good deal. Biz 1.0 participants? Got a few, okay. All right, cool. And we also got the big pitch coming up. We have some big pitch alumni going on as well. So I kind of use REV Birmingham as the platform to kick off the conversation and really talk about how that ties into the larger ecosystem. While we got his attention, Daryl Washington, right there, he's with Urban Impact, and so they're charged with management and promotion of the 4th Avenue Historic Black Business District, as well as the Civil Rights District. So I appreciate you coming out, because I wanted to make sure that we all know about the things that individuals as well as organizations are doing in their space, because I feel like a lot of us, we don't really know what's going on. So a lot of it is just really raising awareness, which is going to be important if we're really going to push Birmingham to that next level. All right. So what does that next level look like? Usually whenever I have an opportunity to talk, I kind of lead with a depressing statistic, and there are a lot that we can choose from, but I don't use this to throw cold water on a lot of the fire that's Birmingham's current revitalization. If anything, it's just to bring a spotlight and attention to what work still remains, basically. And so if you look at job growth numbers, not just Birmingham proper, but as a metro, I want to say about 2015, I think we netted about 3,000 jobs, which is not bad. The year after that, I think we did about 3,500. So, it's good, trending in the right direction. It took us a year to do that. If you look at some of our peer cities, such as Nashville, Charlotte, Austin, they did 3,000 jobs in a month. They're doing 30 a year, 30,000 a year. It's not a function of size either, with some of those metros are larger. Chattanooga, a metro half of our size, they also did about 3,000 jobs within that same time span. So again, it's to, one, of course, recognize the revitalization and the work and the efforts that are going on now with all of these organizations and individuals around town, but also to raise a flag to draw attention to the fact that we are still falling behind a lot of our peer cities, which means that as more intellectual capital, as more financial capital becomes concentrated in a few of these cities, Birmingham exposes itself to greater risks of falling further behind. All right, so a lot of individuals, a lot of us, all of us, we all have a role to play in making sure we're putting Birmingham on that best path forward. So looking at that landscape of entrepreneurship, just not taking it for granted that we're all familiar with what we're doing at REV Birmingham. Our organization goes back to about 1957 with Operation New Birmingham, and that was an organization charged with trying to promote the city core, the downtown area. Around this period, of course, you had white flight, you had exodus and an erosion of the tax base as people started to move to the far regions of Birmingham, not just proper, but of course, you started to see some of the suburbs rise and develop. And so Operation New Birmingham was tasked with really trying to reverse that trend. So that work continued for a few decades, of course, and then in 2004, Main Street Birmingham started as part of a federal initiative, and that idea was to, in a lot of ways, do what Operation New Birmingham was doing, but it was more of a neighborhood focus. So think your downtown Insleys, your downtown Woodlines, Avondales. A lot of those cities existed as separate entities before the merger of 1910. All right, and so you have walkable areas, pedestrian-friendly areas, great housing and building stock. But obviously those neighborhoods fell on hard times, and so about 5 years ago, almost to the date, REV Birmingham, well, Operation New Birmingham and Main Street Birmingham merged to form REV Birmingham. And so our work is simple. We have one mission in mind that rests upon three pillars, right? And that is to create vibrancy in our downtown core and our historic commercial districts, and we do that by filling vacant spaces and growing sustainable businesses. So that sustainable businesses portion, that's what I'm responsible for. And the way that that looks like is a bit contrarian. And I say this because I think it applies whether you've been the co-starters, you all are familiar with this, but if you're going to be doing something in business later on down the road, it's important to remember this, because if you're starting a business, a lot of times people will say, well, you need to do what? You need to start a business plan, right? Develop a business plan. We tell folks that that's probably the worst thing that you can do. The reason why is because it's just a guess, right? It's a pretty package that you put in front of folks with money, and it's filled with guesses, assumptions. Those assumptions haven't been validated, they haven't been tested. And so instead of spending a few months trying to figure out what that package should look like, we emphasize figuring out what the business model is. Right? And so the business model is going to inform what that business plan will eventually look like. All right, so we use this via what we call the business model canvas. You have multiple versions of it. We use something called the co-starters canvas, and so we're looking at 11 core concepts. Right? What is the customer segmentation? What is the problem that you are intended to solve? What is that solution to it? Your distribution method, marketing, revenue models, all of that, right? But the idea is to start fast or to fail fast. So if you are on to something, you want to make sure that you are quickly ramping that up. If you don't have a good idea, or it might be a good idea before it's time, we want you to fail that idea without spending too much time and money and effort and resources into that. And so we follow that model throughout our entire pipeline of service delivery. So Biz 1.0, that's just a quick, simple 3-hour workshop where we're going over those concepts. It's not about leaving with the questions answered, it's about asking the right questions. And then we have co-starters. That's a program that we went in concert with an organization called Create Birmingham that used to be the Cultural Alliance. And so they reached out to us to partner on this effort. Happy to say that we have about 133 graduates now, 2 classes going on at the same time with about 27 individuals. And so Xavier Carney, Eugene's Hot Chicken, Kim, is Kim in the back? Kim, bro, I say, hey, Kim. Hey. That was for you all to say, hey, Kim, to her. All right, Biddy's Living Kitchen, y'all are familiar with that? Downstairs? All right, awesome. So obviously, co-starter graduate, but again, going back to that idea of testing the idea first, we have a stall downstairs called Reveal Kitchen, and every 6 months we bring in a new chef, and that's, you can think of it as the research and development lab. That is where you get the time and the opportunity to get the exposure, to get awareness of what it is that you're doing, to test products and recipes, to figure out the pricing components, all of that. And so once you graduate, we can work with you to identify a brick and mortar space throughout Birmingham. But, and Kim's going to be successful, we already know that. But if somebody went through and they said, you know what, this is not for me, we want them to figure that out in a space like that where they haven't taken out $500,000, $1 million loan trying to build out a restaurant, right? And so we count that as success as well when somebody decides not to move forward, right? Because we don't want them to take out all of these loans or hit up friends and family, the business goes bankrupt, and Thanksgiving is super awkward, all right? We want them to figure that out before they move forward with an idea. There was one of the individuals, she, Angel Wong actually, came from San Francisco. We started looking at some buildings downtown. Super excited, gung-ho about what she wanted to do, Vietnamese street food. But we had to kind of tap the brakes a little bit. And going back to that model of market validation, what does that look like? For a lot of instances, it's just doing pop-ups. And so we have an event called Woodlawn Street Market. It happens quarterly, and so she started setting up booths and doing pop-ups at different restaurants, and she discovered that she loved making the food, but she hated the business aspects of it, setting the schedules and doing the budgets and things like that, and it really just zapped the passion out of her. And she decided, and her food was amazing. There's no doubt in my mind she would have made it, but she knew it wasn't right for her, and so that's a success, and that's a win as well. All right, and so after that we have the big pitch that I'm sure you all will be at, right? Yes, the big pitch. If y'all are going to be at it, when is it? November 18th. No, damn, all right.
She just told.
Everybody, that is Jasmine. Say hey, Jasmine.
Hey, Jasmine.
She's our coordinated intern that we have, an amazing individual, cannot do any of this without her. So she's kind of like the glue that bonds it all together. So, but she cannot get me to stop my Red Bull. So, but and so we have the big pitch, and that's kind of the capital access portion of what it is that we do. Because one of the ironies is that a lot of the businesses, especially represented in this room, they are the best vehicle that a city can really use to tell its story, to talk about its character. If you go to New Orleans, you're not going down there for the Applebee's. All right, you're going down to not the old street, to the French Quarter. You're going down to Bourbon Street. You want to experience New Orleans like a local, right? And so those small businesses are the best way that a city can really elevate and tell its story. But those are also some of the hardest businesses to capitalize, right? High risk, slow growth. A lot of VCs and angel investors, they don't fool with that, quite honestly. And so the big pitch is a kind of a creative way that we came up with to address that challenge. Started off with $10,000 thanks to PNC. They loved the results that we were demonstrating, and they committed to $40,000 for this year and $50,000 for the next year, which will be the 5th year. Some graduates of that shoe shop right across the street on 3rd Avenue, Japanese Izakaya, if you've been there. Also Nancy Legg, Ghost Train Brewing Company, Lamar Story right there, Light Touch Massage, on and on and on. And then, of course, we've already talked about Reveal Kitchen. And so kind of looking at that landscape and the organization, some of which we've already talked about, and how that ties into the larger ecosystem, especially tech. Because on the surface, those two aren't really related, right? But if we look at Birmingham's best play moving forward, chances are it's probably going to be technology related somehow, whether that's advanced manufacturing, whether that's financial tech, whether that's healthcare and life sciences. Technology is going to be an integral part of that. But you talk to a lot of these organizations and people tasked with bringing that top talent down to Birmingham, they'll tell you it's hard to recruit. And it's not that they don't love Birmingham when they get down here, it's just trying to get them here in the first place because of perception and just so many issues. And so small businesses, or we'll just say the Main Street businesses, they play an integral part in creating that vibe and that culture that a lot of these individuals are that they are expecting, especially when you consider where they're coming from, whether it's in Austin, whether it's Charlotte, Portland, Silicon Valley, obviously. And so that's going to be one of the things that we're starting to look at going forward in TechBirmingham is where is that overlap and where should that connectivity happen? Right? How can we leverage technology to start making it better and easier for people in small businesses? Right? And that might not be a direct one-to-one relationship in that you're going to walk into a restaurant and it's just going to be tech-centric, and a lot of restaurants, if you will, or any kind of Main Street business, I mean, the most advanced part of the technology component is really the POS, point of sale, right? But is there a way that we can start getting creative and innovative and looking at what experiences such as going to City Hall, what does that look like, and how can we use technology to facilitate a better experience with that, right? So we're starting to hear a lot about Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and so funny enough, you can use blockchain to actually do online business license processes, right? And so you don't have to go down to City Hall. It might take 1 second from the time you hit submit. Cities like Chicago already started to experiment with that. Right, and that kind of goes into Birmingham telling a better story about itself. Because again, a lot of our reputation right now, either it goes back to the civil rights and human rights movement, which is not necessarily a bad thing, it's just that we haven't done a good job of telling that story. Right, so if there's a call to action to lead, that's one of the things that I would try to impress upon people, is to start telling Birmingham's story in a better light. We always talk about it through the lens of victimization. Right, we stop with the grainy black and white images of the kids and people being attacked with the dogs and the fire hoses, but we don't talk about it through the lens of victory, right? In a lot of ways, they broke the back of de jure segregation, right? Now, it's not to say we solved all of those challenges, but we don't talk about it through that lens. We just have to do a better job of telling that story, right? And so, when you take all of that into appreciation, we have a great foundation. We have this emerging tech scene. I think we built a pretty good ecosystem to support small businesses. And so really it's going to kind of come down to you guys, all of us, to make sure that we're getting the word out, we're getting the message out. If there's somebody who wants to start a small business, again, talking about that awareness, making sure you all know what is going on, where to plug them all in. If you're doing something already, serving as a mentor, Jackie Jones, she's a co-starter graduate. She was a service provider. She came in to do marketing services through the boot camp. Again, just wanted to emphasize what that ecosystem looks like. And I'm very quick to point out that and I think the folks that you heard from who are on the other side of that service delivery would agree that in a lot of ways we're not responsible, so to speak, for the success of those who come through our pipeline. And what I mean by that is the way I view our work is that of building a platform or a stage. And I love a cheesy analogy, right? So if you go to see Beyonce, talked about her earlier, and she puts on a dope-ass show, right? You're not going to clap for the people who built that stage or the people who hung the lights, right? You're clapping and recognizing the person who got up there and put their life on the line. That's their livelihood, right? You clap for that person. And I see our work in a similar vein of building the tallest, the strongest, the deepest, the widest platform for guys like you all to get on, to put your lives on the line, because again, this is about your livelihood. And our job is to do whatever we can to support that effort. And the community plays a role in that as well. Regardless if you are an entrepreneur or a small business owner, regardless if you are thinking about it, we all have a role to play in that, whether that's just coming and supporting some of these businesses, whether that is finding a limited role that fits within your time capacity. Like I said, Jackie Jones, she came 1 hour of her time to do some marketing delivery. We have mentors, Kim Lee, before she's a mentor as well for the big pitch. All right, and that is the kind of model that we have to build because we're seeing that even when people open the doors, having that mentorship and having that available resource and that bench of supporters, of advocates, it could spell the difference between a business that just languishes and a business that really thrives. Right? Because once you open those doors, in a lot of ways, that's when the hard work starts. Right? And the things that sometimes is difficult to appreciate. Right? Now we got to look at inventory management. Now we got to make sure that we actually took a accurate assessment of our expenses. Right? Did we set our prices high enough? So on and so on and so on. Now you got to deal with the city. Who doesn't love doing that, right? So, but that's going to change, hopefully. So, but all that to say, it's going to be important for us to keep an eye on that, especially if Birmingham is going to start seeing the growth that I think a lot of us expect of this city. And we're at a rare point where we're starting to get a series of wins, right? And every time I'm talking to somebody, they ask me what changed, what really flipped the switch for Birmingham, and I always point back to Railroad Park, right? 2010, September, Railroad Park opened, right? And a lot of folks, I mean, they crapped on it, They naysayed it. I mean, it was the dumbest idea of you. Don't read AL. Let me not say that because they might sponsor some of the stuff. Don't read the comments. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But, you know, and some of that skepticism might have been justified, right? But that area right there transformed because that was Birmingham's first tangible evidence of what a lot of folks have been believing for years, if not decades, right? And of course, we all know what kind of happened in that Parkside district after that, right? April 2013, the Barron Stadium opened, and you had 1,000 housing units open up within short distance, right? But again, we still have a long way to go, and we are still at our pre-recession job numbers, right? We're still playing zero-sum game. We see a lot of activity downtown. Much of that is coming at the expense of suburbs, right? You're not seeing the same type of growth out there that they once enjoyed. A lot of it is being concentrated in Birmingham. As a Birmingham cheerleader, I mean, that's a great thing. I love it. But also recognize that it's not being spread equitably, not just throughout the metro, but throughout the rest of Birmingham as well, especially in a lot of our traditionally marginalized neighborhoods. All right, so again, the importance of going through programs like this so that when people open up, they're in a much better position for success for their business. So hopefully that individual will hire locally, and it'll start a domino effect. Now they can better support their family, the neighborhood starts to rise, it all ties into one another. So anyway, guys, I don't want to talk too much about this. If there are any questions, happy to entertain.